It turns out that the Pokemon TCG, although ostensibly aimed at children, is perhaps the most broken and degenerate card game I've ever played, built into its very nature. So I've been playing a little bit of Pokemon TCG Live, which is the, I think, fairly new online client for Pokemon TCG, which has been a game in paper since about the year 2000, I mean 1999. It's a game that I remember from when I was a kid. I had a few cards at the time, but never played it in any sort of real way. The basic gist of Pokemon, ostensibly, alright, as maybe if you are the same age as me, you might have also done this when you were like 9 years old. You have a Pokemon, and then you have a bench of sort of backup little Pokemon like you do in the video game. There's one Pokemon that's up front, and one Pokemon your opponent has up front, and they can attack each other. And the cards you have these energy cards that charge up and allow your Pokemon to access their more powerful attacks. And the way it works is, energy is attached to individual Pokemon, and the cards have energy requirements. Like, let's look at this thing. This takes 2 dark energy and 1 of any other energy, but it's only on this card. And I think in order to make that work, they put in a bunch of ways to draw cards. You can only play 1 energy a turn, similar to mana in Magic. And maybe that was enough of a limitation, but if you're trying to put 3 energy on every single one of your cards, and if you're trying to find basic Pokemon and then evolve them into more powerful forms, which is a big part of the game. Like, for instance, you want to find this tiny Charmander and turn it into this bigger Charmeleon and then turn it into this Charizard, which is the card you actually care about, and then put a bunch of energy on it. Oh, and then you have to discard them afterwards. That's rubbish. So in order to facilitate this, they put in card draw. Lots of card draw that doesn't cost any mana and looks like this. And so what Pokemon the TCG actually is storm mirrors. You are drawing unholy amounts of cards. You can easily win on turn 1 in this game. I mean, you're not allowed to attack on the first turn, but you can win on turn 1 going second if you're... Sorry, you're not allowed to attack on the first turn going first, but you can win on the first turn going second if your opponent has a bad hand. Because if they only have 1 Pokemon in play and you kill it and they can't play another one, that's it, you win. And so, Pokemon, as far as I'm aware, is still aimed at children, right? The designs are kid-friendly. The game itself was, inspired by experiences that the creator had as a child and was very much aimed at other children looking to, replicate that experience of childlike exploration. The Pokemon are cute and they're collectible and nostalgic at this point for a lot of people. And I'm fairly sure I've played against actual children on the ladder in this game, and they play like 2 cards in the entire game and then just die. This game is cutthroat. But it's also... This is the most generous online implementation of a game I've ever played. And I don't say that lightly, right? I've played a bit of Legends of Runeterra, which is quite generous, and I've played Duelist, which I consider to be quite generous. So I've played this game for 6 hours or something. Probably less, actually, because some of that was with my friend. I play this because I have a friend who's big into the game, and I was like, you know what, I should play this with you. Why not? And it turns out that this client requires basically 0 grinding to get not only functional decks, but actual competitive tier decks. When you start, it gives you these 9 starter decks, which are not exactly tier decks, but pretty close to them. Like this Roaring Moon deck is... my friend sent me a version of this deck that recently came, I think it was 3rd in a big tournament or something. These are reminiscent of actual tier lists, and then as you go along the battle pass, you unlock the full thing. You get the actual real decks. A lot of the game's most important staples you just start with. I think you have to play a while to unlock some of the more copies of the fancy Pokemon, but the workhorse cards in this game are these things called trainers, which are spells basically, and you start with a lot of them already. A lot of them do things like this one where you have to discard a card and in order to cast it, but you get to search for 2 energy cards. Again, this costs no mana, and you can play as many of these as you want during your turn. Some trainees you can only play one of, these things called supporters. You can only play 1 supporter a turn, which is quite a clever limitation, actually. It was a balanced decision they arrived at after years of people just drawing their entire decks on the first turn. Pot of Greed, famous banned Yu-Gi-Oh card, which is 0 mana, draw 2, used to be in this game as well. It's called Bill. Just draw 2, no effort. But nowadays, those type of cards are supporters. So you can't chain them indefinitely. I think it's hard to kind of summarize how the game actually plays out. Like I said, it feels very far from how the video game works. I've not played the Pokemon video games much. Couple hours lifetime tops. But obviously you know about them because, well, like I said, I was 7 when Pokemon Red came out. I know about it. And they're slower paced than this game is, you know? You don't sit there and draw cards forever. But because you start with essentially proper decks or nearly proper decks, and you can unlock full fat versions very quickly and unlock more cards very quickly, this game has been pretty easy for me to just dip my toe into and jam a couple games with my friend. And he's been like, you know, able to send me net decks and I can adapt them with just a couple of sacrifices or whatever. I'll see if I don't know if the games can go quite long. So I'm going to play this deck first, and then if I feel like I have time, I'll play this Roaring Moon deck. This one is the deck I started with. It's built around this card called Lunatone, which it does more damage the more energy you attach to it. And then there's another card called Soul Rock that can, for free, attach energy from your discard pile to your Lunatone. So the idea is you basically get a bunch of these out and a couple of Lunatones, which you can facilitate through having a pile of tutors and card draw, like every Pokemon deck. And then you try and stack up one of these to enough stats to one-shot your opponent's Pokemon each turn, basically. The way you win, unless your opponent runs out of stuff in play, the way you win is every time you knock out, the game is, you know, it's kid-friendly, it's not explicitly violent. That's the wrong deck. I have to press this set active button and then go back in here. The client has some UI problems. It took me like a long time to sign up and make an account. Anyway, the basic plan is we stack up these Lunatones and hope that we can make them as big as our opponent's Pokemon. And the way you win in the game is every time you kill one of their, knock out one of their Pokemon, you get a prize card, which is like a few cards from your deck that is set aside at the beginning. And there's some Pokemon that are worth 2 prizes. And Lunatone's only worth 1. So you can trade up with it because it can do a lot of damage. So in theory, you can kind of trade back and forth and eventually win. We also play this big idiot as a backup. I have to mulligan because I don't have any basic Pokemon. Sure thing. Alright, so we've got our Lunatone, which we have to start with. If this dies, we lose the game, but that's fine. I believe... You know, I was checking OBS and talking, and I didn't actually see whether my opponent's going first or not. But if they're going first, they can't attack on turn 1, so our Lunatone's safe. What are they playing? They're playing this thing. So, for those of you who did play this game when you were 9, you might notice that some of these numbers are much larger than they ever used to be. The power level of this game has gone up. The power level of the Pokemon in the game has gone up a lot. The power level of the spells has gone down. It's a bit like Magic, where in the old days, the spells were busted and the creatures were terrible. Pokemon, very similar. So, you don't really get to see what your opponent's doing in this deck. There's no battle log or any sort of history of what they played. If they search for a card, you just briefly get to see what it was. This game, the client itself is like... seems pretty obviously designed for people who already know what the Pokemon are, already know the cards ideally. Like, I can click on this to read it, but I don't have a lot of time. There's a pretty stiff turn timer. Oh yeah, by the way, this can tutor up 2 Pokemon a turn for free. These abilities are things you can use once a turn. Again, they have no cost. You can just do it. So my opponent just cheated a bunch of stuff out of their deck. But I'm going to do the exact same thing, so it doesn't really matter. Right, now I have to think about this. So I can attack this turn, because I'm going second. I'm going to play this, which lets me choose whether to discard this card. I will do that. And I draw another card instead. That's perfect. We need that. So this is a tutor that gets a Pokemon, a basic Pokemon, puts it in play. Actually, I should get this one. This one lets me discard an energy to draw 2 cards. I'm going to have to kind of motor through this quite quickly because there's a very stiff timer between actions. So discard one of them. That's useless. We drew an Earthen Vessel. Oh, have I just thrown the game? Let's find out. I'm going to do this. And we use this to get another Lunatone, which I'll play. I'm going to play this. I'll discard this, get 2 energy. I'm just kind of, at this point, I'm just basically going through the deck. I'm going to discard my hand and draw loads of cards. So I'm filling up my discard pile with energy, which will allow me to, hopefully, find some Soul Rocks and then put it on my Lunatones and do a bunch of damage. Here we go. So we got 2 Soul Rocks here already. That's great. I don't know whether I want to play this. Let's see what this Trekking Shoes hits. Another Nest Ball. That's perfect. That gives us the 3rd Soul Rock. So we don't need this Mewtwo. That's fine. I'll just discard it to something. So now we have 3 Soul Rocks, which means I can attach some energy from my discard pile onto my Lunatones. Is this Lunatone going to die immediately? This needs 3 energy to do any real damage. That needs 3. That needs 3. They didn't make any energy last turn. No, they have 2 energy on this. So they can switch this in and kill it. So I don't know if I want to go all out here. There's kind of... If you think they aren't going to kill your Lunatone, you can try and pile everything onto one of them. But because I can basically make 4 energy a turn, 1 from my hand, 3 from the Soul Rocks, it's sometimes better to spread them out. This is 120 damage, I can do 150, it doesn't really make a difference. So I'm actually going to spread them out a little bit. I have this as well, which lets me get another energy back. Here I can discard and draw 3, I'm not going to bother doing that, I'm just going to slap it for 120. And then we pass. When you attack, it ends your turn. You can't do anything after attacking. There's no second main phase in Pokemon, which is kind of an interesting design limitation. Okay, so they played an energy on that. They're probably going to swap it in and then blow this up, and then I might try and find some way of switching. I can play this. Boss's Orders. Okay, so this card is a supporter, so you can only do this one. They're going to kill my Soul Rock. They get to swap my Pokemon. I don't really mind them killing this too much. I have this, which can get it back anyway. Ultra Ball. Okay. So my opponent doesn't actually have a way of switching things around. They're going to evolve this, I guess, into a VMAX, which is a really big Pokemon that it's going to be even harder for me to kill. Oh my god, the thing. 310. But if I kill this, I get 3 prizes. Wait, they're just doing nothing. Can I kill that? It's got 120 on it. I need to do 190 to it. So I need 6 energy on a Lunatone to get it to 210, which I can do if I just find a switch effect. Or actually, no, I can retreat this. Yeah, I think my opponent has maybe messed up. I guess they had a bad hand. It happens constantly. Oh, that's perfect. I'll just do that. Save my energy. So we play this. Get my Lunatone back out. Put a bunch of energy on it. I should probably discard this to Radiant Greninja actually as well. So that's now 210, which will kill it. But before, because that's the last thing I do in my turn, I'm going to do this first. I'll probably draw an energy anyway. I'm going to play this on this Lunatone. I don't need to sandbag any further. Do I do this just to filter the deck? 20 cards left. They might draw some kind of disruption effect. Although it doesn't matter. let... usually the ones that disrupt your opponent's hand shuffle away instead. There's no point playing it now. Let's just do this. Bang! Alright. We killed their huge thing. We get 3 prizes, no more, no less. So this does mean they have to pull something else out. So they get to pull out their big Miraidon for free. They have a top deck, which, I mean, they could top deck a big draw spell, so they could go off. They can also use this. Oh my god, yep, they top deck this, which draws 8. So they're very much back in the game here. Gonna charge up their stuff. This is okay though, so like, we're ahead on prizes in terms of, we're kind of, hopefully we can keep up on tempo here. This Lunatone's already doing 90. I can do, this dies, I can attach 4 energy to it to get to 210, which is not quite enough to kill this Miraidon, so I do need to find some other way of getting another energy on it. I can 2-1 up and play 1. So I think I have exactly enough to kill it, which then puts me on 1 prize to win. Mareep, yep. This little sheep thing evolves into another sheep thing that allows you to play energy repeatedly on your backline. Cool, so they killed my Lunatone, but the Lunatone's only worth 1 prize. So we'll just pull this other Lunatone out. Drew a boss's orders, that's kind of good. 19 cards in deck. Do I want to do this? Yeah, screw it. Nice 2 hits. Is there anything in the prizes? Cool. Ooh, if I do that, that makes my turn simpler. It does make things awkward when this dies though, so I should probably play this other Lunatone instead. Because I still have enough to kill this, right? Let's see, so we do this. Billion energy in the graveyard. So we're sorted. I want to repeat, again, this is a game aimed at children. This is an IP aimed at children. Kids are allowed to play this game. There's nothing preventing them from doing so. I mean, there's weird state where, like, I have a rough idea of what I want to be doing. In terms of, like, I know I'm familiar with this kind of gameplay, right? Of, like, chaining loads of stuff together. But, like, how many kids are going to know how to do this, you know? I want... There's nothing that I really need, to be honest. I guess escape rope. What I'm probably going to do, so this is I'm going to take them down to 2 prizes. I've already got boss's orders in hand. I'll just get the other Lunatone, just then I have it. Alright, this now does 240, so we can kill this Miraidon. And then what I'm going to do next turn is, so they're probably going to kill this now, right? Because they have another Miraidon with energy on it. So they can kill my Lunatone, that's fine. We're pulling the other Lunatone. It has no energy on it yet, but I'm going to use boss's orders to swap in their Mareep, which is very small. It's only got 60 health, so we can just blow that up very easily and get our last prize. These EX Pokemon are worth 2, and the VMAX is worth 3. But you can see these have much more health than the Mareep does. It's a weird dynamic. It's interesting in that the large health Pokemon are obviously they're busted, right? But the game is designed around it. I guess because the attack limitation is so strict, there's 1 attack per turn. That's it. There are very few cards that can remove multiple Pokemon in 1 turn. So being able to do like there are some things like this unit has a card. This ability can hit 2 of your opponent's things, but these cards are really, really rare. Like the ability to do that. I don't even have Water Engine. I can't use this attack. I'm only playing this for the first ability. So being able, this is 60 HP, but like being able to do 120 in 1 turn and get 2 prizes would be much, much weaker. Having to spend 2 turns killing 2 Pokemon is kind of the strength of this deck. Like my Pokemon are only worth 1 prize. and they can do enough damage to trade with these big EX cards once you get set up and the engine running. The idea is that you just recur Lunatones. You can tutor them out. You can get them back from the discard pile with this Rescue Carrier card. So you just make a load of Lunatones and try and keep them big enough that, like, you kill their big thing, you get 2 prizes. They kill your small thing, they get 1 prize. You kill their big thing, you get 2 prizes. Repeat. Yes, I can still do stuff. The thing that checks whether you want to end your turn, you can turn it off, but, like, I'm not familiar enough with the rules of the game to be very confident that I'm going, that I've actually not just misclicked. But in this case, game, I have lethal. I don't need to attach more energy to my already lethal creature. It's fine. So that was a short one, and the deck worked there pretty consistently. My opponent's deck also seemed to be working, although I think the turn one was maybe a little weak. I've definitely had, like, I had a game the other day where my opponent had a bad hand. They played their 1 basic Pokemon that they started with, and then passed. And I took my turn, and I tutored a bunch of times, and I pooped out a Lunatone and 3 Soul Rocks, and I swapped my Lunatone into the active position. I drew a huge pile of cards, and I put a load of energy on my Lunatone, and I killed their 1 Pokemon. And the game was immediately over, because they didn't have another one. I'm going to play this Roaring Moon deck now. This is kind of similar in that it's this deck that focuses on aggressively trading and getting energy back from the discard, but it does it using a different engine. And in this case, our main threat is a card called Roaring Moon, which is another one of these big EX Pokemon. That has an ability where it can one-shot your opponent's Pokemon that, like, it literally does, it just kills it. Doesn't do damage, it just kills it. But the Roaring Moon will damage itself in the process, putting itself to, like, nearly dead. Here it is. So knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. If that works, this Pokemon does 200 damage to itself and does 230 health. So generally speaking, your opponent can easily kill it the following turn. It has another attack which can do 100, or if if you remove a Stadium from play, which is like an enchantment. Oh, bloody hell. Sorry, the turn time is a little vicious. Oh, that's the wrong one. I should have put this up. This card retreats for free, so I can easily pull it back to the bench and swap another thing in favor of it. So we'll just play out our Pokemon. This list is not the starter deck. This is based on a net deck that my friend sent me. There's a Pokemon that I don't have that allows you to discard your hand and draw 6 if you play it on the first turn, which I'm playing this instead, which allows you to draw up to 3 once during your turn, but with no first turn limitation. Besides that, I think it's basically the same. There might be a couple of other slightly different things in the trainer selections, but that's otherwise the same. I chose to go second here because you can't attack on turn 1, and it's pretty reasonable that in this deck you can kill their, like, your first attack can probably kill their thing if you get going. Although my hand is actually pretty naff. I think I need to play this Ultra Ball. So what I'm going to do is play Earthen Vessel, discard this energy, get 2 energy, discard them both to Ultra Ball, so there's now 3 energy in my graveyard. Play Ultra Ball, get a card called Luminian V that searches your deck for a supporter, get a supporter that brings 2 energy back from your discard pile and draws 3 cards. Play that, and then try and find a way to kill them. Okay, so they've got more than 1 Pokemon. This is exactly the sort of card that's in this game. It searches your library for 2 Pokemon and puts them into play. But you can only play it on turn 1. Like, what a swingy, incredibly powerful card. That you can just, and again, no mana cost. What have they got? Origin Form Palkia V. I recognize this. This is one of the starter decks. So it can search for a Stadium, or it can do 200 damage. But there's also an evolved form of this that's very strong. I don't know what it does. They've played Lake Acuity, which makes their stuff take less damage, which is kind of annoying, but not a huge deal right now. Okay, so this Horsey is still up. Another Ultra Ball is whatever. Okay, so we Earthen Vessel, discarding this energy, get 2 energy, Ultra Ball, discard 2 energy. Get Luminion V. Play Luminion V. Get... Yes, I would. Get Sada's Vitality. This is a supporter, so my turn after this may be somewhat limited, but put an energy on this big boy, put an energy on this. Oh, I should have drawn with Mew first. Oh, energy switch. Oh, perfect. Here we go. So play this here, and then play energy switch to move an energy from this Pokemon to this Pokemon. And then I don't want to play this Ultra Ball because I actually want to keep both of these cards in hand. I can't play them now because they're more supporters. Activate this. So I may discard a Stadium and play to deal more damage. I'm actually going to leave this here, I think. Although I can just find my own Stadiums. No, I'm going to leave this here for next turn. Because it doesn't do anything on their turn. It's not proactive. This dies without the damage boost. Get a prize. Dark Patch, nice. That gets an energy back from my discard pile to one of my benched Dark Pokemon. There's 1 energy in my discard right now. My next turn's a bit awkward, actually. Oh, they just scooped. Yeah, sure. Pokemon! Yeah, it is fun to do the tutor chaining. What I've found... I haven't really shown this off here. To be fair, I've got time for another game. What I've found is that you often... You tend to have moments of stability when, like, your opponent's hand is just naff. Like, sometimes you'll just run out of cards that do anything. And you'll often find the first deck I played, the Lunar Rock deck, tends to go through its entire deck over the course of a match. And then by the end of the game, your hand is just full of redundant tutors, card draw, things you either can't play for any effect or can't play full stop, because you'll deck yourself. You can't play more than 60 cards in this game, which is wise, otherwise people would play so many cards in their decks. Okay. It looks a bit awkward starting with Radiant Greninja. You might recognize this card from the other deck. It lets me discard an energy to draw 2. We can't attack with it. It's just there for its ability, but that's fine. Hisuian Typhlosion. What is this art, dude? What? I will say, the art in this game, like, all the promo cards look really bad. All of them that I've seen. They've got, like, the Pokemon themselves are, like, very texture light, if not textureless, which worked great when they... Oh god, my opponent didn't do anything. Oh, and we got 2 battle VIP passes. I think we might have won the game, folks. Right, I need to... I'll complain about the art afterwards. Let's get 2 Roaring Moons. And Mew. And another Roaring Moon. If you get Luminion directly into play, its ability doesn't trigger, so fetching it is not useful. Speaking of ugly promos, this probably looks really cool in person. The foiling doesn't really translate to the digital medium, you know? Right, we're going to discard Cheeky Energy. Oh yeah, let's go. Alright. Do I have another way of discarding anything? No, I would love an Ultra Ball right now. I really would. I think I just play... So I can draw up to 3 with Mew. Can I empty my hand enough? I can play these cards, but I think I'd rather play this. I only get 1 energy back with it, but I still draw 3 cards. That's pretty solid. So we do this. We get another VIP pass, Sealstone. Do I have any Pokemon V in play? I don't. I could get one, but I don't think that's super useful. This allows, if I play this on a Pokemon V, it lets me tutor my deck. Yeah, I guess I can do that. It sort of wastes the Luminion's ability, But I think what I want to do is play this, use the ability to get something that allows me to fill my bin. Or just, oh, Earthen Vessel, perfect. If I get this, I can discard the 1 energy and get 2 more. Play this, discard this, get 2 more energy. Dark Patch back the first energy onto this benched Pokemon here. Play another one onto it. Cast Switch. Swap this in here. Now we sadly don't have a stadium in play. So I think I have to use the first ability. But this is, once during a turn when this Pokemon moves from the bench, or during your turn, that's fine. Okay, so we're just gonna kill this using the first ability. So that dies, and Roaring Moon deals 200 damage to itself. I get 2 prizes, and my opponent brings in their other Pokemon. Oh, that would be good. If I had this before, I would have been able to discard this to the second ability and not take 200. But that's fine. This needs 3 energy to do anything. Okay, they've drawn a normal Pokemon. It only does 20 damage. That's good. This obliges me to discard 2 of my benched Pokemon. That sucks. Well, Luminion's done its job already. And I guess I could lose... I can lose Mew. I got loads of cards in hand. Oh, maybe that was dumb, because... No, this is fine. Full face guard. I think that reduces damage, is that right? Let me see it. Yes, okay. So I can't kill this by doing 220 to it, which is awkward. Oh, they've got a swappy thing. What does that do? Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon EX and Pokemon V. I mean, I can just use the insta-kill. Or I can use Boss's Orders and insta-kill this instead, which is much better. Or this Abra. This card is quite annoying for me. I don't have great answers to it. Alright, what's the line here? So I can swap in this Abra and just kill it. What does this do? Put 7 damage counters. Oh god, I have to take some game action or other. So the timer is so vicious. Let's dig for some stuff. There's another energy in the bin. Great. Trekking shoes. Would I like to... no, I don't think I need an Ultra Ball. I think I've already found all my Pokemon. Town Store's kind of good. Do I just have to knock out this with Roaring Moon, or can I do something else first? So if they swap this back in and then put an energy on it, they can just kill this. But they can't kill whatever else I put in. I would quite like to use it to murder this, though. That would be quite good. Any thinking time swing? Oh, no. Oops. I thought I'd already put another... That was a misplay. Never mind. Guess I'll draw 3. Oh, I also needed... Oh, that was a double misplay. Never mind. It doesn't matter. You live and learn. Right, yeah, I think we just use this ability. It's a bit of a waste. But that Mimikyu is pretty strong against me, because I basically only have Pokemon EX that deal damage. So I'm going to have to use this knockout ability at some point anyway. It may as well be now. That's a good draw. So they've put in the big thing. Yeah, I'll just pull this out. They probably can't kill it. And I hope they don't have another Mimikyu. Or I'm going to be very sad. Great Ball. The top 7 cards of your deck get a Pokemon. Pretty good. Oh, I didn't see what they got, because I was reading the card. Thanks, game. Okay, that's similar to Lunatone. Shuffling an energy back into the deck. Shuffle up to 5 Pokemon from the discard pile into their deck, so they got the Mimikyu back. Clever, clever. Your Mask. Espeon V. Oh, that I can one-shot. I might just do that. Just swap it in and one-shot it, because that's 2 prizes, and then I just have to kill one whatever thing. Yeah, should we just do that? So I think we can play... Wait, hold on. I've got a Sada's Vitality here. But I think I need to use the... Yeah, I want to use the boss's orders. I'm just going to kill this Espeon V. Makes life simpler. Let's do this first. I'll just draw first, right? Oh, 3 hits. Eeg. How many energies are in my discard? 3. There's 2 in play and 1 in my hand. So there's still a bunch in the deck. There's 1 left after this. Dark Patch puts an energy on this. I guess I may as well get value out of this, right? I will discard an energy. Get the last one. Bunch of energy in the bin now. 17 cards left in deck. Feeling good about that. Let's buff this up. Let's play an energy before I forget and throw. Do I save this? I actually kind of want to save this, because it makes it easier for me to make sure that my next Roaring Moon is loaded up. So I'm actually not going to use Radiant Greninja's ability here. I kind of already have everything I need, you know. No, I don't need that. Something else instead. They can easily kill that, so I'm going to leave it there. I don't actually want to play this. I can play this and use its ability. Get another one of these. Chuck out on this. Cast boss's orders. Swap in Espeon V. Attack for... Oh, it's weak to dark? Oh, I didn't notice that. Wait, is the other one weak to dark as well? No. Okay. Oh, I don't even have to discard my thing. Is my opponent likely to have Pokemon tools in their deck? You know what? I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to discard this. Like, I don't need to worry too much about running out of damage, because my Roaring Moons have an ability that one-shots things. Oh, and I've got another town store anyway. Again, this game and this IP is aimed at children. Children. I'm not sure children are capable of doing this amount of sequencing. Like, it's too much to ask for an 8-year-old's developing brain. Which is fine when you're playing with your friends, but when you're playing online, you can't really, like, ignore what the game is. You know what I mean? I actually really respect that they've chosen to put together a system where the... Oh, my opponent's kind of given up, it looks like. Yes. I'm going to win the game, Pokemon. I actually respect that they've not hidden the game from you. One thing that I always find to be frustrating in online TCGs, free-to-play TCGs, is that when you start out, you don't really get to play the game. By which I mean, you don't have the ability to... You don't have access to the cards that enable the play styles that actually define the game at high level. Oh, I leveled up the pass. Nice. No, I leveled up my profile, not the battle pass. Yeah, you don't actually get to access to the mechanics that define the game at a high level. And in this game, you get 9 starter decks that are full of all the competitive stables you could want and based on actual tier decks. Apparently Lunatone Solrock isn't like super viable. It's kind of a budget list. But Roaring Moon is a real deck. Like this, my version of it is a little bit upgraded from the version I started with, and I will unlock more cards quite soon, apparently, according to my friend. Like in the next couple levels of the Battle Pass, I'll be able to finish this deck, basically. And there's a bunch of others, like if you look at net decks, from what I've seen, like a lot of them are, you know, this deck is a real deck. Again, this version of it is not optimized, but That's okay. Like, it's a starter deck. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't run as many copies of the key card as it might, but you unlock them on the Battle Pass. And I assume it's the same for, like, I've been unlocking pieces for this deck, this Golden Go deck, which is when you discard energy cards from your hand to deal presumably massive amounts of damage. Sounds very fun. But the game doesn't pretend that it exists in the form that I thought it did when I was a child, right? You play your crappy 60 HP Pokemon that does like does 20 damage with one thing, right? Like those cards still exist because they're basics. Like this card, okay, this is more HP than you might see on a basic from back in the day, but like this type of card still exists. People play them because they evolve into other Pokemon that you then need. Where's a good example? The ones in this deck are all quite good actually compared to what they were in 1999. This deck has a bunch of really crap. Here we go. I'm pretty sure this card actually existed in like the original release. I think I might have had this card at the time. This card does nothing. But when you're a kid, you're like, yeah, I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to try and draw my whatever it evolves into. This thing, Seadra. Which was like, slightly better. A bit more exciting. Maybe like every once in a while you draw all three of Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard, and there you get a Charizard, and look, it does like, if you put like 4 energy on it, it does 100 damage, or 120 or whatever it was. And like the power level of the game has skyrocketed since then. But also it needs to, because the design of the energy system is such that like, and the evolution system is like, you would need all these tutors in order to make any of that stuff work. And if you want the game to function like that competitively, you actually need to put in all these super degenerate things, and then you need to make evolution worth it, which then also suggests you should include some other alternative to just making evolution chains so that people have Pokemon that can work immediately, so you have a difference between short-term and long-term strategies, which maybe is where these gigantic basic Pokemon that are worth more prizes come in, because they require less investment on your part, but they reward your opponent harder, right? There is a cost to playing them. If they can get up to this much damage required to kill them quickly. And a lot of these cards they do have quite stiff energy requirements. Like there aren't a lot of, at least from the ones I've seen so far, there aren't a lot of big V or EX Pokemon that have like cheap attacks that do a lot. There are Pokemon V that aren't even that good. Like this one is pretty naff. Like, 200 damage is a big number, but like 3 energy and then it can't attack. It's whatever. You play this because it evolves into this, which has this massively powerful attack that only costs 2, and then it has this ability that's very strong as well that allows you to recur a bunch of energy. So this is why you play the V card. And again, all of that stuff, especially in a competitive setting, that does not work unless your game has this card in it, right? I think Ultra Ball existed. This is like an OG card. I'm pretty sure this or something similar. No, wait. This is a nerfed version of Computer Search, which was the same thing, but allowed you to search for anything. That was the original card. That card got banned very quickly, I'm told. So it's such a strange game because it's so swingy, and especially at the level, like I'm just playing on ladder. Again, probably half my opponents are kids who don't know what they're doing. I occasionally play against people who they've put all the Pokemon they like in a deck, and they're playing like 4 colors or something, and they've got a couple of big Pokemon with cool art, and they just do nothing and die. And it's like, I feel kind of bad, especially as the turns can be quite long. So my opponent is just sitting there while I just like churn through my deck. I think in this video, one of my opponents conceded while I was like sitting there drawing cards, setting up my board. Because like, if you're not doing that, you're not doing anything. Like that's not good enough. It's very strange. I would actually rank this as this game is like more degenerate than Yu-Gi-Oh! No, I've not played much Yu-Gi-Oh! I've played a couple of demo games of it. But, you know, I've heard the stories. I have a rough idea of what Yu-Gi-Oh is like. And I think this game is like... It has similar... I think Pokemon's limitations are actually enforced. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh is like, you can only play one thing a turn. Kinda. But in Pokemon, you can only play one supporter a turn, and you can only attack once a turn, and the attack ends your turn. And that stuff is like... Without those limitations, the game wouldn't function. Like, the supporters were introduced after a few very broken years. As a way to balance out these kind of effects that you still want in the game, but don't want people to just be able to chain together. And I think Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of like more willing to break its limitations with extra summons and things. But I think in practice the effect is pretty similar. You tutor something into your graveyard, then you tutor it into play, and then you tutor this other thing that is based on it, and then you combine these two cards into something else. Like, the words are different, and the mechanics have different names, but I think fundamentally they're pretty similar. But I think even in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's nowadays, from what I understand, it's pretty hard to win on turn one. And in this game, if your opponent has a bad hand, they just die. And I've definitely, like, I've conceded to misclicks or to having a kind of weak opening a lot more in this game so far than I normally do in other card games. And then the other thing is how many of your cards are just air. Like, it's sort of weird how, like, most of the cards in this deck are either situational or quickly become redundant once you've actually pulled out all your Pokemon, which doesn't take very long because you've got so much card draw and so many tutors. And this deck has a lot of one-offs, but if we look back at the Lunatone deck, this deck runs a total of, 11 Pokemon? And I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 tutors for them. As well as recursion cards that are dead until your Pokemon are dead and you've run out of more of them. And then these interaction cards like switches and things that are, again, situational. Supporter cards that you can only play one a turn off. So they often get stuck in your hand as well because you need to do something else. There's an interesting thing about Ultra Ball, which is you have to discard 2 other cards to play it. This card is actually good because it allows you to get stuff out of your hand, which then allows you to use cards that draw up to a certain amount, or just use it. You just use it to fill your graveyard, similar to in Magic, where discarding cards is inherently good. Yeah, just really not the sort of line of thinking that that I would have expected out of the Pokemon setting. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised by this. Like, I'm friends with this guy for like a decade, and he's told me plenty about Pokemon, and I played it a little bit when I was a kid, and in later years learned about, zero mana draw 2s and draw 7s and whatnot. So I'm coming into this kind of prepared, but like, it feels as though a large portion of my opponents are just not prepared in the same way that is not the case in other online TCGs. Generally, when I play against people on Ladder and Hearthstone, Marvel Snap, even Duelist, like, I was good at Duelist, but like, my opponents, for the most part, were playing the game, right? Here, a substantial portion of my opponents just aren't. And that's a weird feeling. I'm just going to touch on I don't want to call it monetization. The lack of monetization, I guess, of this game. I don't even know how much money this stuff costs, but... So this is the Battle Pass. It seems to last for quite a long time. You get 2 quests a day. Amazingly, the quests so far, all the ones I've seen, have been easy to complete in a single match. You're not sat there grinding for very long. Sometimes you have a bad hand and it takes a while to do anything, but like, generally speaking, the quests are not demanding. You'll notice that I have the Premium Pass. I did not pay for this. When I started, my account already had a bunch of crystals in it. This is the premium currency. And I gained enough to get the premium battle pass in like 2 quests, and then got the premium. A lot of the good stuff's on the standard one anyway, and I'm now up to nearly enough crystals to pay for the next premium pass. So like, there is no need to spend money to get stuff out of this battle pass. I don't even know why there is a premium pass, because it's so easy to get. I don't know why you would bother spending money on it, but maybe there's something I'm missing. You know, maybe later on when you're not new, maybe it costs more, or you can't get it through crystals or something. I don't really know. I suspect that it might also be the case that like this game is generous and kind of only has lip service monetization, because the actual value that they're getting out of it is that it keeps people engaged with Pokemon itself as a property, which, you know, might encourage them to buy the video games, buy merch, buy real cards. This game ties into the real card game as well. If you open a pack of the real game, you get a code that you can put into the online game, which I really wish Magic would do in Arena. That would be a nice feature. I mean, it would be annoying, but, you know, to have all the card code tokens sitting around, but also, like, it would be cool. It would actually be cool to do that. And I'm glad that this game does it. Yeah, I think if you're looking for a cheap way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Or to, like, do ridiculous combo things, this game is kind of for you. In terms of the actual play experience, so far I've found the process of like experimenting with decks to be very compelling. The actual play experience, so far the decks I've tried have been kind of, they just do the same thing every game, which they're designed to, and the game allows that because it's full of card draw and tutors. My friend shows me that there are some less linear decks, like you can play, there are some decks that play more defensively or have more options in them that give you a bit more flexibility, but at least the starter decks seem to be mostly built around like you assemble your one combo and then off you go, and you hope that it's good enough. And it's not that the game is easy to play necessarily. Like, as I said, a lot of my opponents don't seem to have come unprepared for how the game actually works. Or their hands are all just bad, which is entirely possible. Like, you just have hands in this game that don't do anything, for sure. So I don't want to say for sure. I don't want to definitely stake the claim that they're all 9 years old or bots or whatever. But like, again, a lot of my games are just non-games where my opponent doesn't do enough to really participate, and I'm just like playing 12 cards a turn, going off, because that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, it's such a strange experience. Made all the stranger by its sort of kid-friendly nature. When, like, you know, people talk about Flesh and Blood being like, you know, complex and very competitive and sort of spiky, right? This game, which is full of like weird textureless 3D dragons, is spiky enough for a lifetime. Like, this is the spikiest, most like sequencing heavy game I've ever played. Yu-Gi-Oh! Might pivot to the post, but I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh! Very much. But certainly from what the games I've played, you know, there are Magic decks that are like this, but they are few and far between. So if you like sequencing and sort of puzzle box machinery, I feel like this game is for you. Or if you really like Pokemon themselves, then you'll probably get a thing out of it as well. Because, like, there are lots of cards in this game. Not all of them, you know, not every Pokemon is good. Not every Pokemon is legal in standard or whatever. Charizard is still a staple because it's Charizard. I think they kind of have to do that. And most of these other Pokemon I've never heard of. Arcanine is an old one. So if you're an Arcanine fan, you can do that. There's a few, like I found a Rapidash card. I remember that from when I was a kid. And like I said, Charizard is still around. Most of these other Pokemon are from later generations that I've never heard of. But, you know, maybe everyone has a favorite Pokemon. It speaks to them. I don't know if you can just go in and build a deck around the one you like. but you can probably find a card that is similar to it, or maybe a card of it, and just include it in a deck and try and do something with it, and maybe, you know, have a good time. But yeah, I don't really know how broad the card pool is. The other thing is that if you like promo cards with lots of lightning effects, there's no shortage of full art unreadable promos with foiling effects and lightning. This game, buying paper Pokemon competitive decks is mega cheap because they just, like, all the expensive cards are like chase foil versions, because the game is very collector friendly because of how a lot of people just get the cards that remind them of the Pokemon they like, I guess. In a way that doesn't really apply with Magic. Like, Magic has a lot of iconic characters, but no one cares about Shieldred in the same way they care about Bulbasaur. You know what I mean? So the like tier 1 standard decks for Pokemon are like 60 quid, 70 quid, if that. And, you know, a lot of those will have cards that all the trainers will cross over the spells. So you can build up a collection quite quickly and just rotate in and out the actual Pokemon you're using. The exact mix of engine cards. Because, like, you know, in Magic, the difference between foil and promo versions of cards and normal versions is not that big, whereas according to my friend in Pokemon, like, you know, a non-foil normal basic Charizard is like 4 quid, and then the foiliest foily Chase Ray version is like 200. So the competitive decks are mad cheap if you're not trying to pimp them out, and then the collectors have something else to focus on. This feels a little bit like it reflects that experience. Like, actually, this game is the gameplay is super cutthroat, but the game itself is very financially very accessible. Like, this is the freest free-to-play TCG I've ever come across by an enormous margin. Like, Legends of Runeterra ain't got nothing on this. Like, this is so generous. And wastes absolutely no time in getting you into the meat of, like, no, here is the real game. These 9-star decks are like actual decks. Yeah, they're unoptimized, but they're actual decks that you might see in Standard, playing the real cards and winning using the real strategies. You know, and it does mean there's no kid gloves, which sucks because I'm pretty sure there are actual kids. But it does mean that for someone like me, I can go in and in a couple of hours of, like, just doing some basics and getting my head around it, I can play with my friend who's been playing he's been playing the Pokemon in paper for, like, you know, most of his life, and we can play as equals. And that's not something you can say for other online TCGs, and that's real cool. So yeah, I think that's a good summary. Great on the wallet, not so good on the actual 8-year-olds. See you next time, folks.